Hello, Leapers, and welcome to Leap to Empower Stories That Light the Way. Today's episode is a special one. For the first time, we're hearing from a male guest whose story is rooted in both financial wisdom and soulful purpose. Meet Sadiq Dosani, an entrepreneur, investor, community leader, and devoted family man. Since 2010, Sadiq has invested in early stage startups and real estate projects, but now follows a value investing approach inspired by Warren Buffett and other notable value investors. He has been married for 30 years and has 2 children. From boardrooms to early stage startups, and from value investing to heartfelt service, Sadiq has lived a life shaped by intentional choices and meaningful leaps. In this conversation, we explore what it means to truly invest, not just in markets, but in values, family, and legacy. Whether you're curious about money, purpose, or taking the leap into the unknown, this one's for you. So settle in and let's dive into Sadiq's journey of courage, clarity, and value-driven living. Welcome, Sadiq. So nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Shaila. I'm excited that I'm the first male guest on your show.
Yes, you should be. So let's get started with your story.
I'm not sure if my story is different from many others. I came at the age of 13 as an immigrant, went through school, college, got my bachelor's in accounting, got my CPA license, working for a CPA firm for a couple of years. I couldn't keep a job for more than 18 months. I stayed at the CPA firm for 2 years. Then I went to JP Morgan Chase, worked as an analyst. And throughout this, and I eventually realized that I wasn't doing what I loved. I couldn't see myself just sitting at a desk in a corporate building or an office. And then the lack of financial freedom, working for somebody versus working for yourself.
Right.
And that financial freedom that eventually made me take a leap into becoming an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And believe it or not, being an entrepreneur has been an interesting journey. With a financial background, I actually ended up getting into a venture, starting a business from scratch. My wife kept her job, so she was my partner, supporting me. She was working for Ernst & Young, so she kept earning a paycheck, so we could take a leap and risk getting into business. And I used to go to Slick Willie's pool hall. I used to love playing pool. So I said, why not something that is entertaining? And so I actually opened my first sports bar, I would call it.
Really?
Pool tables. And so I did that for about 8 to 10 years. Interesting, profitable, lucrative to some extent. But I had an event in my life that actually made me change my direction and move back into financial world. And that's when about 15 years ago, I founded Securranty, which is an insurance company.
How did you find that avenue? What sparked in you to go towards that way?
Towards insurance?
Mm-hmm.
2 things. One, the industry that I was previously in, it didn't align with my values. It took me some time to realize that. So that was one of the reasons I changed direction. And then coming across insurance, it's my financial background, entrepreneur by nature, risk taker. So in the process of trying to help my nephew, he had iPhone repair businesses and he was looking to expand. And at that time, in the process of trying to help him or guide him towards growing his business, I learned that there is such a thing as warranties and insurance. And so I just dived deep and did some research. And then I took again a leap into starting a business from scratch.
Wow, into something unknown that you had no idea about.
We are all wired differently, and I am a bit of a risk taker. And then, of course, when you have a life partner, speaking of my wife, that has truly been supportive. And she said, go ahead, take the risk. At least, even if you fail, you won't have a regret that you didn't try. So I think I went to my wife
Yeah.
for
And
encouraging me to take that leap.
she not only empowered herself, but empowered you all and you today to where you are today. She's definitely a leader.
Oh, absolutely. She keeps me also grounded. She's a rock in my life. She tells me like it is. She keeps me grounded. And I will say that my daughter is the same way. My daughter is just a bit more brutal when she gives me feedback. No, I truly, whether it's my son, whether it's my daughter, and especially my wife, I to understand when they provide that feedback, things that others will not tell you.
Right.
Your loved ones will tell you. It's called tough love.
Yes.
And you take that feedback, take it to heart, and recognize that they mean well.
That's amazing. And that shows true value of a leader also is taking feedback and pivoting and doing what you can to improve. So you've done a lot of other value investments, real estate investments. You serve on some nonprofit boards. How did that journey come about for you?
Doing voluntary service, it's part of what I believe a strong ethic that everybody should strive towards, and I'm sure many do. And in process of giving back, sometimes we don't realize we're actually the one we're doing it to receive. We receive a lot more than we feel we're giving. So we are in essence giving to ourselves. I will probably credit my father-in-law for sparking that fire in me, because he has spent all his life serving the community. He used to talk about and share with us his stories of service. And it was that actually that sparked in me the desire to serve and give back in whatever little way I can.
Wow. How did you become an experienced real estate investor and now into value investments? I reach out to you sometimes, right? We'll transition into value investments, but I want to understand how you were into investments and then you moved into this something that has just blown you, which is what you are in today. And I want to get into that a little bit more, but I want to understand that transition.
Yeah. First of all, everybody has different levels of experiences. I've had my years of experience. However, I still consider myself a student learning. I would not in any way imply that I know it all. I originally had invested in real estate, whether it's land, whether it's a deal here and there that a friend of mine was pitching. And some of those worked out well. Some of those did not work out well. I've invested in early stage fintech companies, in other biotechnology VC funds. So I've done a lot of venture capital investing as well, but I have some scars from that. And that also, I think, is an experience that has taught me of what is a good investment, how to evaluate whether an investment is good, whether it's worth the risk, money that we put in. In my case, I have a full-time job running a company. In general, we all strive to save and grow our wealth. And as part of that, I felt I should let my money work hard while I'm working hard in my day job. And so I started investing in real estate, some of which I was doing prior to currently working at Securranty. And the whole objective was simply to save money and grow your wealth.
Yeah, definitely. And there were probably some ups and downs and challenges and good times as well. And you learn from the challenges.
Yes, trust me, I have some scars from those investments that I've learned. Generally speaking, even if you look at legendary investors like Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and Manish Prabhu, they will actually tell you that about, on average, even the best investors will have about 30 to 40% of their investment decisions be wrong. And wrong doesn't necessarily mean they lose money. Mm-hmm. Wrong could be selling your investment, getting out of the investment earlier and leaving money on the table. But we, not being as great as they are, have more scars of losses than leaving more money on the table.
Right. So let's talk about value investments. What is value investments in simple terms?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. So value investment, let me just say, is the father of value investing. Who invented or initiated or innovated value investing is Benjamin Graham. He's written a great book called The Intelligent Investor.
Okay.
Warren Buffett considers that book as his Bible.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll definitely have to buy it for sure.
I would highly recommend anybody that's looking to invest. You'll find a lot of wisdom there. But going back to what value investing is basically, as a value investor, when you are making an investment in a venture, in a company, in a business, or purchasing equity in a publicly traded market. The goal is to buy something that after you do the analysis, right? If you're going to invest in the financials, right? With value investing, you are investing in companies that have at least 8 to 10 years of track record. They have solid cash flow. Cash flow is the lifeblood of a business.
Mm-hmm.
They have earnings. They're profitable. And so the goal is to evaluate the financials, understand what the actual intrinsic value is. And if the value of that company is $1, the goal is to buy it with a margin of safety of, say, 40 cents or 50 cents or 60 cents. So as a value investor, you're saying no to everything else unless you're getting a good deal with an upside.
Mm-hmm.
So you are, with the margin of safety, what it does, it protects you from the downside, protect your losses.
Right.
So if you protect your losses, you automatically take care of the upside.
Mm-hmm.
The other core principles of value investing is only investing within what falls within your circle of competency.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't understand a business, pass. It's really an interesting anecdote for that is Warren Buffett. If you ask God, Google, too hard pile Warren Buffett. If you Google that,
Mm-hmm.
it will actually show you a spot on his desk where he has a tray and it says too hard pile. Literally anything he doesn't understand, if it is too complicated or he feels he cannot foresee where the company will be 10, 20 years from now, if he cannot evaluate, he literally puts it in too hard pile. And he says 99% of every deal he looks at goes there.
Wow.
So that's called circle of competency. So if you don't understand it, you don't do it. The other thing is moat. Finding a business that has a competitive, solid moat. A durable moat is, if you think about the olden days when there were castles, right? And they would have this moat around the castle to keep somebody from coming and invading them.
Mm-hmm.
They would have waters and they would have crocodiles and stuff in the water. So enemies couldn't just penetrate the castle easily, right? So in the same way, businesses have to have some strong competitive moat, as Warren Buffett calls it, so that it is durable and it can stay competitive or a dominant player in that industry for a long time to come. Let me share a couple other important principles that I found important to highlight. One is management integrity. One of the things that Warren Buffett talks about is that if he cannot confirm even that they have integrity, he walks away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter how great everything looks, how much money he can potentially make, he'll walk away. That's one of the things. And then finally, he talks about investing in companies and in general life, avoiding leverage.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, price. Price is what you pay. And these are Warren Buffett's famous words. Price is what you pay, value is what you receive.
Price is what you pay, value is what you receive. Yes, sure. Of course. And that makes it a value investment. Honestly, I didn't know anything about Manish Prabhai. Of course, I've heard of Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger. And then you sent me these links on Manish, and then you sent me this book that I read. It was called The Richer, Wiser, Happier. It was an amazing book. I still follow it. I feel like that is my Bible because it's great stories of great leaders, of how they started and what they are today. They're real stories, which is what I love and which is what this podcast is about. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to know, how did you get into something that you researched, or somebody sparked that? How did that come about?
So it was a combination of scars. I happened to be one day Googled investment or something. And then I came across this video of Manish Prabhai.
Okay.
Now, for those who may not know, Manish Prabhai is a legendary investor who follows Warren Buffett with Charlie Munger's value investment philosophy to the T.
Mm-hmm.
And once I heard his video and the reverence with which he spoke about Warren and Charlie, and then, oh my God, that was it. Mm-hmm. And I realized that till now, the investments I've been making, I realized those have been, for lack of a better word, it was a foolish journey, which left scars, but in some ways, I guess it was good.
There were definitely ups and downs, and that's what led you here, is the scars challenged you to look for something more.
Yeah, not all your investment decisions work out
Yes.
in the way you would expect. But the goal as an investor is what? To not lose money. The number one rule of investment is don't lose your money.
Mm-hmm.
And the number two rule is don't forget rule number one. And we, as humans, we've evolved over thousands of years, and our brains are wired incorrectly with flaws. And so you have to learn. And so I've learned a lot from them.
It empowered you to look for more answers, and it challenged you to learn and educate yourself more. I think you had mentioned that then you started to look into executive programs at different schools like MIT, and that those programs that you did end up taking aligned with what you had Googled.
Well, let me make a confession. Yes, I took some executive education courses at Harvard, MIT, and Wharton. But in retrospect, those week-long education courses, they look good on my LinkedIn profile, maybe boosted my ego. But in reality, I learned so much more from listening to the talks of Manish Prabhai, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger, Howard Marks. There are many Stanley Druckenmiller. There are many legendary investors. I will tell you that to continue my education, I think I'm going to get myself a PhD just by going to buffett.cnbc.com. And Warren donated every single video recording of the annual Berkshire Hathaway meeting to CNBC.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe you can go back far back as 1964.
Wow.
And Manish Prabhai, who's been a legendary investor for about 25, 30 years, he said he's listened to it twice.
Wow.
Right? And that's my next journey, is to listen to those at least once and hopefully twice.
Yes. It's very interesting. I was definitely inspired by Manish Prabhai's story when I read that book you mentioned.
Oh my God.
And it's also on YouTube. You can just YouTube Manish Prabhai and listen to his story, which is very inspiring. But the book, Richer, Wiser, Happier, also talked about his story. And every chapter in that book is actually amazing. And the real stories really inspire you to be like, wow, if they were nothing and where they are today, anybody is able to achieve anything that they want to.
I believe the author's name is William Green. The author did a great job interviewing, I believe, 8 or 10 legendary investors. And what really inspired me and what I liked about this book was the fact that these legendary investors, it doesn't even just talk about how they invest, what their investment philosophy is, or how they go about making investment decisions, but it gives us into a window of how each one of them lives a very ethical life.
Yes.
They give back, like Manish Prabhai.
Agreed.
The Dakshila Foundation, where he takes the poorest children in India and trains them for the IIT exam.
Yes. But I did read that, and that was very inspiring. Every chapter did talk about how these people are giving back, and whether it's a small way or in a big way, but in some way.
Yes.
And that was one of their biggest philosophies or mandates of their life, was to give back because of their journey. So how does one get practical and apply that? And where does one start?
That's a value investor?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. It's very simple, actually. And sometimes the simple steps are the ones that we forget to take.
Yeah.
And they're sometimes the most fundamental. I will tell you that once I came across value investing, I paused all other investments. I have listened to every single, I believe, YouTube video of Manish Prabhai.
Mm-hmm.
Highly recommend. You will literally learn common sense decision making when it comes to investing. So for the past 2 years, I've been reading and learning. And after 6 months ago, roughly, went into public equities, following in their footsteps, and their philosophy, made some equity investment decisions.
No.
You have to understand how our human brain is wired.
Mm-hmm.
We have this thing of FOMO, whether it's these group investment deals or you see the stock ticker symbol going up and the stock market going up and you feel like, oh my God. Mm-hmm. So you got to control that urge, be patient, learn. I would say learn, compound knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think once you do that, you will feel that you're ready to actually start making decisions. So I wouldn't rush to make any decisions until you've learned enough and are truly following their recommendations of how to be a value investor.
So you went through an educational process and you were empowered by all of these leaders financially to take some steps in your life that you feel comfortable with and you feel good about, that you've learned and now you're applying it and you're hoping that you are going to get some value investment out of that.
Absolutely. I experienced this firsthand. For the first time in my life, I went to the last annual Berkshire Hathaway meeting when I made the pilgrimage to the Mecca of value investing in Omaha. And I met a lot of people at the event. And the thing about this community is everybody is very open, very sharing about the knowledge.
Transparent.
Very, very. And because they want to help others. There's no such thing as, oh no, I've got this information, I want to keep it to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's a community out, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's Apple or Spotify. There's so many value investors out there that openly talk about their decisions, their mistakes, how they made them, and so that you don't make them.
Mm-hmm.
It's truly a great community to be a part of.
Yeah, it's basically applying it everywhere in your life. Whether you're doing passive investments, whether you're doing your own company, whether you're doing investment company or an active company of your own, it doesn't matter what kind of financial investment you're making. These values or the value investment, I guess, mission can be followed in anything that you do in life.
Absolutely. One of the famous quotes of Warren Buffett is, he says, I'm a better investor because I'm a businessman, and I'm a better businessman because I'm an investor.
Sure.
The same left side of your brain that you use for investment is also used to run and operate a business if you're an entrepreneur. So if you are an entrepreneur, it's really easy to become an investor. For example, if we are going to go buy a $5,000 appliance, we do so much research.
Yeah.
Okay. But when somebody emails us a deal or we come across a real estate opportunity, investment opportunity, we don't do that research. We are evolved over hundreds and thousands of years that we always want to be part of the tribe, right? We feel that sense of safety and security. But the ones that are successful investors are the contrarians that think contrary, are opposite of what the crowd thinks, does what the opposite of the crowd does.
Mm-hmm.
And contrarian thinking, contrarian investing is something that Warren Buffett talks about as well.
No, very interesting. But then with the whole tribe thing, you can argue that even Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, that itself could be a tribe, right?
So that's a great question. Yes, it can be a tribe. But one of the things that they talk about as part of value investing is independent thinking.
Mm.
All of these legendary investors that have funds, they're required to file the 13F every quarter. God, Google has all that information. So you can look at their 13F and see what investments that they have made, in which companies, which stocks they bought, which one they sold. You see all of that activity. Now, Warren Buffett clearly says, look, what we do, the stocks we buy, there's so many variables that go into our decision-making, right? First of all, they're investing in billions, right? Warren Buffett bought this Occidental Petroleum stock, which recently, if you look at his 13F over the past couple of years, he's been buying a lot of. Now, you can look at that and say, okay, this stock has already been filtered through a great mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me do my own due diligence, see if I understand the business, if I understand the economics of this business. And economics doesn't mean that, oh, it's oil. You really have to be a mile deep than be a mile wide,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your competency and knowledge and understanding of the business have to be really a mile deep, not a mile wide. And once you have done that and then you understand it, then yes, you may then decide to make that investment. But just because Warren has bought a stock doesn't necessarily mean that you should.
From a value investor, it doesn't matter what you do, your norm or your passive investment that you want to bring in that extra cash at home, that value investment can be applied.
Yeah, look, I just want to be accurate in what I understand value investment to be. Value investment doesn't apply to VC investing. Value investment doesn't apply to startup businesses. Those are entrepreneurial by nature. Value investment only focuses on businesses that actually have track record of operations, of revenue, of substantial cash flow, because cash flow is the lifeblood of the business, and it's profitable or close to being profitable. So value investment only applies to those type of ventures. Now, VC investing, real estate investing has its place. It may not be for everybody. It may be for those people that like swinging for the fences, as they say, right? Take an example of cricket or baseball, right? When you're thrown a ball, when you're thrown a pitch or you get a ball, if you try to hit every one as a sixer out of the park, how successful are you going to be?
No.
And therefore, that's why it's called swinging for the fences when you're making those investments. Versus value investing is literally saying, I've got 10 years of history on this company. I've got 10 years of management, those investor calls that I can listen to or read.
Got it. More clear, provide clarity. Yeah, that was great. So what does financial empowerment mean to you? And what kind of legacy do you want to leave for your kids when it comes to financial empowerment?
I would probably say more than financial empowerment, it's financial independence. And what do I mean when I say financial independence? Financial independence, I believe, means you having the freedom to do what you love in life, right? So, for example, what I would say, what I've done for my children is, hey, I've paid for their college. They have no student loan or debt. And something that many people can do for their children is put in and invest money, set aside money when they're born. One of the things that I would want my children or anybody to learn in terms of financial literacy or legacy, as you call it, is the power of compounding. Einstein has called compounding the eighth wonder of the world.
And can you tell us what compounding is?
Yeah, let me tell you what compounding is. So there's a mathematical rule of 72.
Yeah.
So basically, you have three variables: time, an amount, dollar amount, and of course the number 72. So you take any number, it's about doubling, right? So the third variable is the rate, right? So if you take, let's say you're getting a return of 10% on your money on an annual basis, right? So you divide 72 by 10, you get 7.2. 7.2 means that your money is going to double every 7 years, roughly. Let's drop off the 0.2 for easy math. So the question is, how many doubles can you have in your life? I'll give you a quick anecdote that Manish Kabrai shared in one of his talks. Is he was driving home from picking up his daughter from college. She had earned her first $5,000 from a summer job. And he said, did you know that if you invested money, the $5,000, right now you're 24, by the time you're 65, and I can probably get you about, on average, 15% return, right? So that means every 5 years, the money's going to double. You divide 72 by 15 and you roughly get approximately 5. And so he said, by the time you're 65, that money will compound, that 5,000 will turn into 5 million. So that's the power of compounding. Now, she's 24, so let's round it to 25, 65, you've got 40 years. So in 40 years, you've got 8 doubles, right? So you take 40 divided by 5, right? Because every 5 years, money is going to double. Now you may say, wait a minute, the 5 turns to 10. So the first few doubles doesn't matter that much. You feel like it's not as fast, but this is where you have to be patient for the money to double and compound to 5 million. Number one. Number two, what you never want to do is interrupt compounding, the power of compounding by you're saying, oh my God, now it's like 2 million. Maybe I should take out some and go take a vacation or buy a car. Don't interrupt the power of compounding. You want that 5,000. So when your child is born, you put $5,000 there. Maybe by the time they're 20, you may have 4 doubles. But find the right avenue to invest wisely. I think financial literacy is extremely important. Power of compounding is probably the most important thing that I think people should learn.
And it's never too late to start the compounding.
Oh, never too late.
Yeah.
Never too late.
Never too late. Just start today if you need to. But I feel like that definitely is something that's very important, and everybody should understand the power of compounding.
Even if you are 50,
Yeah.
do you know that Warren Buffett made 95 or 99%, I don't remember the exact stats, of his wealth after the age of 50? So between 50 years of age and I think he's 94, 95 right now, right? He had 45 years to compound. Now, obviously, he had a larger chunk, but it doesn't have to be billions that you're compounding for.
Right.
It could be millions, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Agreed. And speaking of money, I always like to ask this fun question. What kind of relationship would you have with money if it came knocking on your door?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I would have a relationship with money. Let me share a true story that somebody shared with me while I was on a plane. I'll make it very short. So this gentleman who was captain of a ship and the CEO of Butterball Turkey in his yacht asked him, said, "Hey, how come you're so successful?" And the CEO of Butterball looked at him and smiled and said, "You mean how come I'm so rich?" And the guy smiled and said, he realized that's what he meant, because when we talk about success, we measure people by how wealthy they are.
Right.
So anyway, the CEO of Butterball looks at him and responds by saying, "I just try to be the best at what I do. It just so happens that money finds me and tackles me down."
Wow.
And that sounds like a great story.
Yes.
And when I heard it, it sounded great to me. But it took me a few years to really understand the wisdom behind it. And the wisdom is very simple. If you are driven by money or by just focusing on making money, you are more likely to be clouded in your judgment and decision making, because that's called greed. So I wouldn't have a relationship with money. Meaning money is just a means. There's nothing wrong with accumulating wealth. Don't misunderstand me. I'm all about that.
Mm-hmm.
But let the money come tackle you down. Just do what you love to do. Be the best at what you do, and let money just come and tackle you down. And it's okay. I invest so that I can grow my wealth. But for me, the objective of investing is not so I can make more money. I have learned from these legends, right? Let it be a game, one that you enjoy. Don't let it be about making money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that even Warren Buffett, I believe, said that, hey, if you enjoy the game, if you love the game, then you're more likely to be successful, because what happens when you play a game? You learn. You want to get better and get better and get better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's about.
And in this game, there's definitely failures, right? How do you pick yourself back up and start walking again?
We all experience failures in terms of investment decisions, or maybe some personal decisions, right? You end up making not the best decision. And one of my failures that has been a scar that I've lived with, and I cherish that scar, where I lost some money. And the thing is, look, I still have plenty of life ahead of me to correct the mistake. So I can live in regret, or I can say, move on. Okay, I messed up, made a bad decision. And don't regret, correct your mistake. That's all you need to do. And there's a saying that says, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of the others. So I've been smart so far, and I'm trying to be wise now.
We all want to be wise in that sense, right? But we have to go through some smart failures to get to the wise ones, for sure.
Yes, but at some point, we want to stop being smart.
Yes. Right.
I said that as somebody that's, well, I'm still young, but that's a wide hair.
You're definitely more wise.
My children don't think so, but yes.
So speaking of financials, what financial wisdom do you want to share with listeners?
It's very interesting. Let me share something that I heard of Laura Templeton, I think the grandniece of Sir John Templeton, in one of her talks. She shares this psychology study that was done that talks about how we as humans if we're not included as part of a group, or we don't get to be part of a group, for us, the level of pain we feel in our brain is the same level of pain as breaking your farm. And therefore, we want to be part of a tribe. And that goes to the contrarian investing, or being willing to be a loner, not necessarily be part of the group, because we're just wired to be that way. So in a lot of the investment decision making that I have seen, my friends and people that I know that have participated in this investment make the investment because so-and-so did it and want to be part of the group. One of the most important mental models that Charlie Munger talks about is inversion, or inward. He says always inward. So when you're looking at an investment opportunity, don't look at how much money you're going to make. Look at how can you lose money on this deal or on this investment. So always inward. So anytime you want to solve a problem you can't solve, always look at it upside down. We have no idea and knowledge when we make the investment decision, but they can randomly impact your ability for the business to survive. That's why Warren Buffett talks about it. If you're going to invest with somebody else, make sure they're skilled. One of the questions that was asked to Manish O'Brien was, at what time when you invest with somebody that you can say that they have the skill and their success was not purely luck, or luck always plays a role. And so one of the things that Manish O'Brien said was, if an investor has a track record of at least 10, 15, 20 years, and then after that they're successful, there's a strong chance it's based on skill, not luck. So if you're going to invest with somebody, they should have 10, 20 years of experience of investing their own money, or have gone through what's called the FFF round, which is friends, family, and fools. So if tomorrow my son decided to do a startup, it's my job to fund or support him in this venture with some of his friends. But the fools of that FFF round are people that don't know them. And that's why they're called the fools, because they're taking a little risk on somebody they don't know, has no track record, history, or success. So it's those fundamental things. Then fully understanding the economics of the business, and then coming to a conclusion independently and on your own, whether it makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we talked about staying grounded, and you are grounded by your family. And so when things go sideways, there is that emotional support that you already have through family support systems.
Yeah.
And
I do get a bit of from my children, hey, Dad, I told you so.
I think everybody gets that.
Yes.
But I do want to spend a couple minutes talking about your community service. What sparked, I know you mentioned your father-in-law got you into it, but what drove you to still give back today?
One of the things, in 12 life, I've grown up listening to His Highness Prince Karim Khan, and of course, in our community, who has talked about service. It is the ethic of Islam, giving back, right? So there's this happiness that you get out of giving. There's a great book that Manish O'Brien talks about on his podcast, is Give and Take, right? He talks about 3 types of people in this world: givers, takers, and matchers. So what you want to do is get the takers and matchers out of your life. Surround yourself with a giver, and you yourself should be a giver. One should become a giver, whether it's giving somebody a shoulder to lean on, or whether it's giving back in terms of voluntary service. Doing so, I believe the universe will conspire and make sure that you experience happiness.
And it feels like that's where you get your true happiness from, and fulfillment.
Yeah, it's...
Fill your cup.
Yeah. And of course, in all of this, I don't want to forget the fact that when you're giving, you're making a difference in other people's lives, right?
Right.
So you're giving for that reason, but I focus on what we end up receiving in the process of giving.
I couldn't agree more. It is a balance at the end of the day, giving and receiving. But the receiving is not expected. It naturally happens.
So it's, absolutely. Yeah. You don't say, hey, I want to give to receive. You give because you want to give. But again, the universe conspires to give.
And that's beautiful. I couldn't have put it in a better way. So now we'll wrap this up. And I love to do this section. I call it Soul Sparks, which is basically like a rapid fire round. And so whatever comes to your mind. So here we go. What does empowerment mean to you?
Independence, freedom.
A mantra that grounds you.
A mantra that grounds me. Be humble and give.
A book, person, or moment that changed your life.
I would say a personal loss when I lost my 4-year-old daughter changed my life for the much better. I think taught me thinking. And a book I would highly recommend is Poor Charlie's Almanac. It should be a Bible of how to make decisions and how to avoid traps that our brains are wired incorrectly to fall into some traps with our biases and decision making. So highly recommend.
One thing you'd tell your younger self before taking the leap.
One thing that I would tell my younger self is choose your friends wisely, because you are who your friends are. So don't just make friends with the living. In the famous words of Charlie Munger, make friends with the eminent dead as well.
No. One value you live by.
Integrity.
What do you hope your legacy will be?
Giver.
One bold, empowering thought to leave our listeners with.
Again, I will quote the famous words of Charlie Munger. He says, compound knowledge and compound money. Wake up every day smarter than the day before. Otherwise, you're like a one-legged man at an ass-kicking contest.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much for your time. It definitely has been educational and inspiration to have you here today. And it seems like just like you quote Charlie Munger and all these other leaders, maybe one day your kids or the younger generation may end up quoting you. You may become the next Manish Prabhar. Who knows? And if you do, we'll definitely call you back.
Yeah, thank you. I've enjoyed it. I hope I was able to live up to the mission of the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great time having you on the show today. Thank you for joining us on Leap to Empower. Sadiq's story reminds us that financial empowerment isn't just about numbers. It's about wisdom, alignment, and using our resources to uplift those around us. If this conversation sparked something in you, share it with someone who needs it. And remember, your leap doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be yours. Your story is the light someone else is waiting for. Until next time, keep leaping, keep believing in your magic.